first Chat with the Champs session, day 2 of the NJCT Digital Camp 2021. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully the technical issues that we've had are all sorted out now, and you can all get onto the link. And as you say, if there's anyone that's not on the link, remember you can always watch it again when I put this video up on YouTube later on. So let's get to it. Now, before we get to it, actually, we have to do the theme tune. Let's not forget the theme tune. This is one of the most important things. Here it is. Oh, no, see, I need to back off here a little bit because I forgot the sound. Don't forget the sound. Need the sound. Oh, no, I closed it down. You know what? We're going to do this just a second. So Matt, I'm wanting you to hear the theme tune. We got the theme tune from one of our summer campers, Kier Chalmers, and it's an absolute dandy. It's one of my favourite tunes all time. Here we go. We're back on now. And he created the theme tune for this year's camp. Let's have a look here. There we go, and here we go, and here we go. There we go. Now we're on.
Curling with no ice, ice baby. Welcome to NJCT. All right, stop. Come to teams and listen. James and his friends with all their wisdom. Though it hasn't been doing so fine, so we've had to come to this camp online. Will COVID stop? Yeah, we don't know. We've been doing this for 2 years in a row. Curling with no ice, ice baby. Welcome to NJCT.
Ah, fantastic. Just wonderful. That should be the inspiration for part of this Unicorn Doubles Cup for this year. Now, let's get to it. The main event of the day. Now, anyone that's been watching curling for the last few years has not missed this guy. There's just no chance. He's got an outgoing personality. He's got an outstanding moustache. And he's got an outrageous lime green hat. And we're going to ask him about that in his back pocket. That's one of the things coming up. So, welcome to the NJC Digital Camp, Matt Hamilton. Let's get your video on there, Matt, and your microphone.
Hey, everybody.
There we go. Look at, he's got the t-shirt as well. Look at that. Outstanding. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing fantastic. It's 9:05 here in Wisconsin, and got my cup of coffee to start the day, and really excited to talk to you guys.
Excellent. Now, Matt, you were telling me that you've been away for, was it the first training weekend of the season?
Yeah, it was kind of like the big, like, all Team USA high performance group kickoff. As some of you may know, we got a new CEO a year ago, last February, so a month before COVID hit. And he hasn't really been able to get, obviously, a lot done during COVID. But he had some really exciting news for everybody, and kind of got a little meet and greet with him to see how he's going to run this organization. And, you know, the USA Curling is, I'm really optimistic for what they're going to do for juniors and like the grassroots program, because he was really passionate about that. So pretty excited for what's to come.
And I take it you've been on the ice this weekend?
Yeah, I did spend a little time on the ice. Unfortunately for me, it was after like 3 really tough workouts. So I was not in the best form because I was a little bit sore. Took me a minute to stretch out and get into a good slide, but we had some good scrimmage games and played some 2-on-2 where Schuster and Landsteiner beat me and Chris Plies in our 2-on-2 game. And yeah, it was a good time hanging out with the boys again.
Cool. Do you have like an internal, like when you have scrimmage games like that, do you have like a pairing that you normally pair up with, or do you switch it up?
We've been doing this fun game where we'll stand, like the house is kind of divided into quarters by the T line and the center line. So we'd stand in our corners and I'll take a rock and I'll spin it on the button kind of slow. And then that's the first person. You spin it again and whoever it lands on is their partner. So It's kind of random, but it ends up being me and Chris Plies versus John and Landsteiner more often than not.
And who normally wins then? Who's got the upper hand so far?
It's actually fairly close. I feel like Landsteiner and Schuster have gotten the last couple, but me and Chris don't play for ties. We only play for shots for the win. So if it's like a draw for 1 or a triple run back double, then we're throwing the triple run back double.
that feels like it kind of suits your personality. Go big or go home, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, I mean, statistically, you only got like a 10% chance to win without hammering the extra, so you might as well throw the triple run back.
And it's more fun as well, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Right? Highlight reels.
Cool. So, so Matt, the setup for this session is we're going to run for about, say, 50 minutes or so. We'll have just a bit of a chit chat here, and we'll talk about the things that we've talked about that we're gonna go through about expectation, about how you guys turn things around at the Olympics, and then after that we'll open up for about a 20-minute, half an hour question and answer session, if that's okay for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Excellent.
So kids,
before we get into this,
come up with your questions now.
Yeah, so before we get into this, just want to ask you a little bit about the stash strong that we've got on the arm here. So talk us a little bit through that. What was the stash strong? How did that all come about?
So as a lot of you know, I kind of got famous at the Olympics for my mustache before even my curling. I was compared to Mario because of this hat, the red hat and the mustache. They're like, that's a Mario brother. So I got quite a lot of that. Well, when I got home, this charity, Stash Strong, reached out to me, and it's a charity for research towards brain cancers, but in particular, GMB. I'm really gonna botch the pronunciation, but it's like glioblastoma or something like that. And it's a aggressive and tough to treat brain cancer. So this guy reached out, and he had this story about his brother who was currently fighting it. And he was just like, hey, your mustache is great. You have great energy, and I'd love for you to like be a part of this. And unfortunately, my uncle just was diagnosed with GMB. So it's never been like closer to my heart to obviously promote this charity. And they've been doing a lot of great stuff. They just reached about a couple months ago $1 million in donations. None of their employees take a salary. They're just all volunteers. So 100% of donations go to actual like grants and research, and they have like breakdowns on their website of where exactly that money's going. And it's pretty incredible. They did this really fun fundraiser too recently where they got like 280 breweries across the United States to donate $1 a pint, and they just named it Smash the Stash. They could brew whatever beer they wanted. Name it Smash the Stash, and whatever pint they pour, they'll donate $1, and they raised like $400,000 for it. So it's pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. I'm really sorry to hear about your uncle there, Matt, and hopefully things will be okay for him. And for everyone that's bought a T-shirt for the summer camp, thank you, everyone. And obviously, from what Matt's telling us here, it's going to a very good charity, and the money's going straight back. So that's good effort, everyone.
Yeah. So thank you guys for who was a part of it, and Stash Strong. Let's beat this.
Yeah, let's do it. Yep. Now, moving back to the curling thing, I mentioned this back at the start. Your lime, I call it your outrageous, because no one can miss your lime green hat sticking out your back pocket. What was the story there?
All right. Well, this I wouldn't recommend this because this was an act of defiance, the lime green hat, and then it stuck. So back, let's see here. It was my first year with John Schuster, so it must have been 2015. It was the 16 Olympics. No, it was the 14 Olympics that he was at. So it was the 2014-2015 season. We all got missed the high performance team because they didn't deem us good enough. So that was fine. It was motivating. I said, I will be back and I will be on this high performance team someday. But in the meantime, me and John had to prove ourselves that season, along with Tyler George and John Landsteiner. So oddly enough, we had these lime green and black jerseys, like lime green trim, mostly black jerseys. And I had this green hat, just happened to have it. And I was at the US Nationals and I was wearing it on my head. And John Schuster was also wearing a ball cap, but I was wearing a toque. So the official comes up to me and says, per world curling rules, which United States follows, you guys have to have matching hats or one of you has to take it off. And I looked at John and I saw a little bald spot on the back of his head. So I'm like, I can't have him take his hat off. I know he's got a bald spot. So I'm like, okay, I've got a full head of hair. I'll take my hat off. So I looked at the official and go, I won't wear it on my head, but I'll wear it in my pocket, and kind of gave her like a smirky look. And she's like, that's fine, Mr. Hamilton. So I played, right? Well, we ended up winning and going to the World Championships. And at the time, our director was Derek Brown, a nice Scottish fellow. And no offense to my Scottish friends, but you guys don't tend to like bright colors, like lime green toques. And I was going out on the ice, and this time it doesn't match at all. We're wearing red, white, and blue. This lime green toque stands out like a sore thumb. So I'm going out on the ice for the first game, and Derek Brown pulls it out of my pocket and says, "You can't wear this. Like, this is ugly. It's too bright. No." And our team coach at the time goes up to Derek and he grabs him by both the shoulders and says, "Don't you mess with my players right before the game." And he takes the toque out of Derek's hand and puts it back in my pocket. And from then on, it was basically, I'm just going to keep it in here because I know Derek hates it. And we ended up making it to the Worlds that year for my first time as in the men's. So I was like, it's obviously lucky. And if it's not lucky, it can't hurt.
Exactly.
So it was an act of defiance in the end. But yeah, now I actually use it every once in a while. Like if I feel like the rocks need a little extra like wipe down, if they're like really frosty conditions and I don't think my glove or my hand's quite doing it, because it might just like get the rock wet. I like to dry it off. So sometimes I'll use that toque utilitarian. Sometimes I clean my brush head with it if it's really frosty. So, you know, it's turned into something that's worked for me, but it definitely stands out.
That's really cool. Now, hey, I was talking about active defiance. You're talking mainly to teenagers. So, you know, they'll get exactly where you're coming from with this one.
I mean, I was like 24 years old when it started. So I was definitely I wasn't a teenager, but I was still a little defiant. I guess I'm still a little defiant.
It's good to have a little bit of defiance, right? You can't have everyone conforming.
Yeah, it gets a little boring if you always conform.
Exactly. So obviously this green toque then has brought you an awful lot of luck, and then you make it to the Olympics. Now this is the kind of main theme of what we want to get into today: how the whole process of that Olympics turned out, because it was a bit of a roller coaster ride. But going into the Olympics, Matt, how was the sort of feeling? What was your expectation, and what was the plan? What were you aiming for?
Well, as most of you know, going into this Olympics for the first time and being one of the only athletes in curling ever to have this opportunity, I had two expectations because I got to play mixed doubles and men's. So I was like excited for a long 2.5 weeks of curling, but I knew it was going to be pretty demanding. And knowing that, you know, the men's was second, there was a little bit of kernel of doubt in my mind that I was going to hold up for the whole time. Cause, you know, I've played long tournaments before, but the World Championships is the longest I've ever played. And I played 22, 21 games in a row in a 18-day period or 15-day period. So it was a little taxing in my head going into it. So I had to like mentally prepare for that. As far as like our expectations for the men's team, our last 3 World Championships were a tiebreaker loss for 5th, 3rd place, and 4th place. So we thought realistically we have a pretty good shot at playoffs. We've been fairly consistent in that top middle of the pack. And once you're in the playoffs, especially at the Olympics before they had the page, and now it's a little bit different, the regular playoff is a new tournament. So that was kind of the expectation, was let's go out, have a good round robin, try and continue this streak of being in the mix for a playoff spot and go from there. And as for mixed doubles with me and my sister, we had a good showing at the Worlds. We rallied at our Olympic trials. We lost our first 2 games and then won 9 in a row. So we were feeling good. We were on a high. We thought getting to the playoffs, especially with only 8 teams, you get to the playoffs, that's half the field, or I think it was maybe 3, but either way, we liked our chances. So obviously, we all know how that turned out.
And playing the mixed doubles before, how much could you take? Was it the same stones you were using, or was it different stones? Or
they did use different stones for mixed doubles and men's and women's. Some of the teams, for right purposes, not all the countries were represented at the mixed doubles that were represented at men's and women's. So if you use the same rocks, your country could have 8 games, 9 games of like preparation, and like, you know, it's a lot different to actually throw the stones and see how they feel, as opposed to like scouting rocks in the stands and like kind of like trying to get a vibe for how the other teams are throwing them. So that was a big that was one big instance there where they were like, obviously that's a unfair advantage. So not the same stones, but the same ice surface.
How was, when you changed over to go and play men's, how was the difference, if we get into that thing with the rocks? We're going to talk more about rocks later in the week, but how did you feel a big difference in the rocks, or were they about the same? Or
yeah, they were about the same. I didn't see much of a difference personally, but I don't think I'm that in tune. If we're throwing matching rocks, I'm probably not the first guy on our team would pick. Schuster's number 1, and then it might be Chris Plies. I just don't have the awareness. I'll throw it and be like, yeah, that was pretty good. And if I throw one like 2 feet shorter, I'll be like, you know, it's probably the ice. Where John's like, nope, that was definitely a slow rock. It's 2 feet short. So he just says it with more conviction.
Yeah. So going into the men's competition after the mixed doubles, you had a pretty decent start. You were 2-2. Mm-hmm. And then you had 2 losses on the bounce, which put you guys kind of against the wall a little bit.
Yeah, we lost to Japan and then Norway, those 2 games.
So that's, you're pretty much facing elimination then from every game on, right?
Yeah, so we were at 2-4. John Schuster had just had a pretty poor game against Norway. And he decided that he was going to take a break, go clear his head, go for a walk. We were like, we're going back to the village. He's like, you guys go ahead. I got to blow off some steam. We're like, you do you. So he went off, and then, came back a little bit later, and we had like a little post-game debrief, and he basically just took the blame, said it was his bad, and we all played, good enough to win, and he was the one who couldn't finish ends. So, which was nice. It's very refreshing that, a teammate can own up to mistakes, and it builds that bond even stronger, and we've been playing with him for a long time. So we reassure him. It's like, John, we know what you're capable of. We know how good you are. It's like, if you need to get out of your head, you got to get out of your head, because it's not anything that you're not capable of. It's a mental block. So you do what you need to do, and we are supporting you. We have your back. So I think that meant a lot to John. It resonated, and he had some. I feel like he had some like inner talks with himself, and I guess he saw the light, because we came out the next game firing against I believe it was Canada. It was actually my birthday. So we were looking at the standings like this, as we had Canada, Switzerland, then Great Britain in that order. And all 3 teams were ahead of us in the standings. So we figured if you win it, it's like a 2-game swing against those guys, because they drop one and you gain one. So we were like, we're not out. We know we're not out, because it's as far as positions concerned, we've got like the best setup to get ourselves back into contention. So we go into the Canada game, and John plays lights out. That was probably the best game of the Olympics, was our round robin game against Canada. We win in an extra end. John throws his last rock tight. I pound it out of hand, end to end, get by the guard by nothing. And even once we were by the guard, it still could have overcurled. So I had to stay on it, like literally right to stop. And we ended up making the shot. And, I gave Johnny a big old fist pump and flexed my arms because they were dead from sweeping the whole sheet. I might not have taken one breath. I know that's terrible form, but I might have just held my breath and went. But we ended up winning that game. And the next game, we just kind of were like, hey guys, that was great. And we tried to like figure out good vibes and like what went well and why it went well in post-game debriefs, which we do it all the time. It's a part of our routine. So we go into the next game against Switzerland, and sure enough, Johnny is red hot again. So we're just like, let's just keep plugging away, doing our thing. And, don't say much to John. It's kind of like a pitcher who's on a no-hitter. Is like, let him do his thing. You don't need to like get in his head. You don't need to suggest anything. Just kind of let him run.
Sure.
And we won that game. Had another stellar game against Great Britain, and got to the opportunity with a couple other scenarios going our way, which was Korea beating Japan as an underdog in the last game of the round robin, got us straight in instead of a playoff. So we had an opportunity. We're the 3 seed, so we got to play the 2 seed. 2 seed was Canada. It's like, okay. In the past, we were 1-8 against Canada. We got the win at the Olympics, so now we're 2-8 against Canada. So we're thinking, okay, we've never won 2 in a row against them. Statistically, this is their game. So we're like, let's go out. There's nothing to lose. You know, they're arguably the best team in the world. So if we lose to them in a good game, there's no shame to that. So we just kind of played like we had nothing to lose. And I don't know if you guys could tell by watching, but one of our goals as a team is to have the most fun on the ice. And once Johnny was rolling, it was very easy for me to get excited, which is sometimes infectious for the rest of the guys. So we were having a lot of fun.
I was going to ask you about that, Matt. And it certainly did come across in that game, and I think even in the final it was quite clear. And we'll get to that in a minute. But just the whole the energy thing, because obviously you're an energy player and you do an awful lot for your team, keeping the communication going, which is an important thing when things are tough. But also keep the energy up. How do you kind of deal with that? I'm thinking you were 2-4. If I can back you up there, how do you cope with that, being an energy guy when you're 2-4? Because it's a fine balance between fake it till you make it, or you're just. But it also can become annoying when you're down and you've got their backs to the wall. How do you deal with that?
So that's very interesting to say that. So when we got onto this high performance team after that 2015 World Championships. We started working a lot with a sports psych, and she kind of came to me one time and was like, Matt, I've watched a lot of your games now. We've chatted with our teams, and I've asked all the other teammates about you. She goes, I got what you have, what I like to label is called the X factor. It's hard to like say what 100% it is, but you bring an energy, you're able to say the right things at the right time to your teammates, and you can change the atmosphere and the mood of the game mid-game, where sometimes it could, like, a bad energy can last an entire tournament, and sometimes you can switch it in an end or two. So she just reassured that what I'm doing out on the ice, like how I like basically just have fun with it, is very beneficial. So like getting that reinforcement that being you is the best thing for you and your team. Being with the right group of guys is super important. Like, my energy wouldn't work with everybody. Like, there's some guys out there that, like, we might be some of the best shooters in the world, but if we don't vibe, then we're not going to be the best. The best teams in the world are all buddies, and they have like a kind of an unspoken bond / nonverbal communication that they can come across and like understand each other, and the things that they do actually improves the others, as opposed to like maybe be a hindrance or a distraction. So that's a lot of it.
It's interesting that you're going in on that. Yesterday we had our League of Legends with Jan Betke, and she was saying that Team Schmerler, when they were at their peak, their quality of play was about the same as the other teams. There's other teams that had the same talents, but they felt they had a better team bonding. And they had a good team collaboration. And it seems to me like in your team you have 4 very different characters. Would you agree with that?
100%. I think our team is a wonderful example of a bunch of 4 different characters that just seem to gel. You got. I mean, none of our personalities are the same on that Olympic team. Between me, Tyler, John, and John, we're pretty contrasting, but it was just the right contrast to make it work. So I think there's more to it than people get credit for. That's why I'm a big believer in players kind of picking who they want to play with, as opposed to like NFL style, where managers would draft a team. Like, sure, you can get some of the best talent in the world, but there's more to the game that's unseen than just being a good shooter and sweeper.
And I think going into this as well, Matt, I'd be curious as well. Did you guys sit down as a four when you started this process towards the Olympics? Did you sit down and talk about this as well, the different personalities in the team? Or was this just something that morphed?
So honestly, it started as like we were just the next best players. We were the ones that didn't get in, but we're like right on the cusp of that team. So like we knew that we were our best chances as far as talent. So when we got together and played, I remember our first tournament, Tyler, and I found out this later after the fact, Tyler went up to John and said, there's something special here. Like he felt it in our first tournament immediately. We like went undefeated in the round robin and got to the qualifiers in our very first tournament. I ended up losing to Mike McEwen in the quarters, but it was a great start. And Tyler was like, man, like there's something here. Like we're out. Like it kind of felt like we'd been teammates already. Yeah, because we've known each other for a long time but never played together. So it was Tyler kind of picked it out pretty early. And I think everyone's aware of vibes and stuff on a team. It's interesting when you feel like maybe one player or some three players or all four just like really connect. You like definitely know.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, you've played curling a long time, so I guess you've played with people that, like you're saying, your energy doesn't work with. And how have you dealt with, if you've been in those situations, how have you dealt with that?
Well, the second on my junior, the second time my world junior team in 2008 and 2009, Matt Perushek, me and him butt heads. He was on the team before me. I didn't think he liked the fact that there was another Matt on the team. He was pretty good friends with the guy before me, and I think he was a little upset that they weren't going to play with him again. So maybe that had a little bit to do with it. And obviously my loud personality as a lead, I felt like he was like, you're a lead, you should shut up and sweep. And I don't conform like that.
Yeah, we've covered that point already, right?
Yeah, we all know by now that shut up and sweep is not my forte.
Not your bag. So, and actually getting into that a little bit before we get back to the Olympics now, obviously with the curling the way it's gone in modern curling, I mean, we go back to the 80s, you're looking at, it was more like a lead should just play the first two stones and shut up and sweep. And now it's not the case. How important is it that everyone's, engaged in what they're doing?
Well, again, that comes down to team chemistry and dynamic again. Like our team in particular, our lead doesn't like to talk, doesn't like to get too involved. So anytime there's like any like real strategy talk, he tends to go down and do the housekeeping, which is a super important role. Someone has to do it at some point. He like cleans the slide path, gets the rock, maybe gets some footprints if he sees them in the line that we're about to throw. He does just important things that are kind of like behind the scenes where everyone's got a role. So, sometimes that's just a position you play on your team. And sometimes, sometimes that's just like what someone else does. So.
How important would you say it is, Matt, for juniors? Obviously we've got a lot of juniors listening here, to sit down and discuss these roles and responsibilities before you get out on the ice.
I mean, first of all, if you don't have a plan for, the non-curling things, like how are you going to do this? How are you going to, like, who's going to discuss strategy with the skip before you bring in a third mind? Like the third guy should always be like the last resort, third or fourth. That's like wasting time on a timed game. So you kind of have one guy who's designated to, be a quick backup confirmation for the skip. You got another guy who's going to focus on housekeeping, getting, the rocks cleaned up. Then you got another guy whose primary focus is probably just timing every single rock. Like everybody on the team should be on a stopwatch, but one guy who's like really attentive to the stopwatch. At least that's kind of how our team rolls. So there's a lot of important things that are, again, that happen behind the scenes that, make this game easier. And if you don't do them, you're going to find yourself getting bad luck. And it's not necessarily bad luck. It's a little bit of laziness.
Laziness and bad planning, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're at a competition, and you're away for a long weekend at a competition, and you've got let's say less than half of the time you're together on the ice, and the rest of the time you're off the ice. Do you even have roles and responsibilities off the ice, or how does your team work?
Well, we've got one guy that tends to manage brooms. So like when we get to the event, one guy will kind of sit down with the bag and fire on all the broom heads and make sure the foams are still holding up and nothing's tearing or brooms aren't cracked from flight or something like that. And then, we've got a guy who kind of like is our schedule guy, almost like our team manager. He's going to kind of have a plan for each day. He's going to know times when we need to be places. So those are kind of like the main roles for off ice. Maybe another dude will take care of like making sure he's got rock information, or maybe like sending the fifth down or the coach down to the club to like watch a game that we're not playing so we can get rock notes for the next game, something like that.
Okay, cool. So now I want to bring you back. Let's get back into the Olympics here. And I just want to go quickly back to that 2 and 4 point. And now we talked about after the game, John blew off some steam. You guys did your thing, then you got back together again. Going into that, the 7th game it'll be. What was the chat? What was how did you approach the start of that game? Was it the same routine, or did you change anything?
No. Again, we had our team systems from 5 years prior, 4 years prior, so we knew how we go into each game, and we weren't changing anything that we were doing. It was more of a keep doing what we're doing. John just needed to figure it out. So we wanted to keep everything the same and comfortable around him. So all he had to focus on was him. And that's kind of what a good team does. Like a good team recognizes what a player needs if they're struggling, and you can't just always expect them to be able to pull themselves out. Like I can't get John over his mental block, but what I can do is make sure that I've got all the information he needs for a throw. His broom is ready to go before the game. We're in that team meeting on time. So when he sits down and wants to talk about like a strategy or plan for the game, like we're there ready and attentive, just making sure that, things are ideal. So all he has to do is his one task, and that's get your head on right. In this situation, and that was just the situation. Obviously, like things always change. Sometimes I'm not playing good, and I need someone to recognize it. Say like, "Hey, Matt, you're not as like energetic and excited. Like, that's okay. Like, what I need is sometimes someone to tell me a joke and just take my mind off the game for a second, distract me from it, break my concentration so I can try and dial back in." So, it's just recognizing what your team needs is a very important role. And at that time, we realized all John needs us to do is get his head right. And all we could do to help him is make sure he's got the best environment to do that.
I think that's a good point as well, Matt, especially for all the juniors out here, that recognizing what you need, and it's going to be different for every team, right? And accepting, I think some teams try to get into a mold or do it the way like you guys did it or do it the way someone else does it, but no one can ever do it any other. You can't follow, this can never be followed a mold, really, or?
Right. You can get an idea, but you've got to make it your own, because what I do is not going to necessarily be perfect for you, but maybe, a slight tweak of that. Say, like, I wanted to hear a joke. Maybe your guy wants you to like look to another sheet and look at a shot and be like, what would you throw here? Break your concentration from your, it's still the same concept, but maybe he doesn't want to be distracted in a funny way. He wants to like reset his mind to something else. So yeah, everybody should try and recognize their team's weaknesses, and when they see them, be strong enough to either say, hey, I need help, and see if someone on your team can do what you need, or see that someone's down and be like, what can I do for you? Like, how can I help you? So like recognizing those situations, you can turn a game around in an end, as opposed to waiting for the 5th end break to talk to the coach or the next game, and you waste a whole game and take an L because you didn't want to be man enough to ask for help sometimes. That's
a great tip, because I mean, let's face it, games go quickly, and at the Olympics things can go real quick, both up and down, like you guys experienced.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, moving on then, as we say, we got to the semi-final. And what point in the semi-final did you feel? Because you tend to see this if you watch a whole curling game, the momentum shifts. And this is one of the fascinating things with curling or golf or wherever these sports that are, tennis is another good example, where the momentum shifts. Where did you feel the shift in momentum was in the, were you guys ahead of the curve already at the start? Or how did you experience it?
I personally felt like the first two ends, we were playing a little conservative. And I feel like when our team tends to play conservative, we're chasing, we're behind in the end, which means I'm hitting their rocks, they're sitting one, and they get to dictate position. But then we got into a bit of a battle in the third end and fourth end, and got to the break with a pretty close score. I don't remember what it was exactly. And our coach kind of reaffirmed what we were doing. He's like, you guys are playing a good game. You're hanging with them. He goes, maybe let's try and push a little bit of offense and dictate. And we tried to push some offense. And what it did is we still kind of felt like we were chasing, but we had more rocks in play, which is always beneficial to maybe sneaking something out. It can bite you or it can really help you out. So we tend to be a team that likes to play with stones and likes to play with fire. So we got a little more rocks in play, had a good couple ends. And then I believe it was the eighth end. We got a miss from Kennedy and I think one miss from Langer on the front end. And we all of a sudden had position and control of the end. And Cooey had a draw to the 4-foot for one, maybe, but it was against 3. And I don't know if it hit a flat spot or if he just threw it light. They were down on it right away. I think they might have said it might have hit a flat spot, but again, who knows? But he came up a little bit light and gave up a steal of 2, and we were able to take a 2-point lead there. And then obviously scoring in the even end that late in the game is also massive. So we were actually able to force them to 1 in the next end and then have a 1-point lead with Hammer coming home. And that's obviously a wonderful position to be in.
Sure.
So I would say right around the 5th end is when we started that like momentum shift. And the 7th or 8th end when we got the 2 is when it was totally back in our favor.
Now, there's going to be a lot of times where you have teams, and I think it's fair to say that the Canadian team with Team Cooey was the favourites for that game, the big favourites, and you guys were definitely the underdogs, and even again in the final. Now, a lot of the time, junior teams out here, you're going to be in that situation where you're playing teams that are better than you on paper. How much do you play on that underdog? I like the psychology of it, because it's not all about tactics. It's not all about. I can feel sometimes there's too much focus on tactics, and there should be maybe a little bit more focus on how you play the game. How's the feeling on the ice?
Right. So, what my best suggestion for when you feel like the underdog, and you said it's not about tactics. In my experience, it kind of is. Like I said earlier in this conversation, that when we play conservative, we tend to feel like we're chasing. But when we get more stones in play, we're actually a little bit more comfortable because we like playing with fire. We like the idea that there's an opportunity for a crooked number as opposed to just the singles. So our tactic was play our game. So if your team likes to hit and you guys are the kind of team that wants to win a game 3-2, like, wonderful, do it. But play your game. Don't let them suck you into the game that they want to play, because that's why the best teams win, is they make you play the way they play. So if you can play your game and maybe catch them a little off balance, we had a great game, but we stole 2 at one end. Other than that, it's a tie game or we're down 1. Who knows what happens? So we just got into our rhythm. So it is kind of about tactics, but it's about your tactics. It's not like what is going to work best against these guys. What works best for you, and make them adjust to your style.
How much time do you spend talking about that then? How much time do you spend scouting the opposition against focusing on your own tactics and your own, efforts in a game?
So our team dabbles with scouting other teams. but mostly just for like trends. Like going into that Olympics, we knew a trend, particularly for Team to Cruise. If they got a 2-point lead, they were like 95% chance to win. At any point in the game, if they went up 2 on you, they won 95% of the time. So kind of going into that game, we always thought, got to keep it close. Like maybe don't try that double for 2, take the draw for 1 in the tie and manage until you have maybe a little safer play for a big number or a multiple. So sometimes it can come into play, but normally, like I was just saying, like if you play your game, you should force the other team out of their style of play potentially. And like the tactic or like your scouting report's going to be all off anyway, because they're going to be playing your game, not their game. So at the end of the day, play the style of play that's most comfortable for you and your team, because that's what's going to give you the best chance at being an underdog and coming over the top.
Cool. Now, moving on then, so you get past Team Canada in the semis.
Yeah.
You've got a silver medal in the back pocket. And the other back pocket beside you
is my green too.
or you've got it in underneath your green hat.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're going into the final. Now you're playing another great team, Team Medina, in the final. How was the feeling if you compare those two?
First of all, I want to throw this out there that the night after we won, I messaged Oscar and the boys, and I met up with them in the Olympic Village, and we went and had a pop at the McDonald's and in the village, and I got some snacks and just hung out for about 30 minutes, talked about the next day. And me and Oscar and Christopher Sundgren in particular are really good buddies. We played in juniors against each other. Both of them came to my wedding the summer before the Olympics. And yeah, I just felt like, how amazing is this that I get to play some of my best friends from abroad on the biggest stage. I was like, I want to talk to them and like see how they're feeling. Are they as excited as I am? And yeah, they were more than happy to meet, and we had a nice chat and good time hanging out in the cafeteria. And then we went to bed, said our good lucks, and we'll see you tomorrow. It was pretty cool. Yeah, so just because you're competitors doesn't mean you can't be buddies.
That's good. That's great. So going into that final then, playing against your buddies.
Yep.
How was that?
Well, it was, it's great because we're friends, but we're also competitors. So like we're playing for bragging rights as much as we're playing for medals. Like that could be, I could live in Sweden and be playing a league game against Oscar, and I want to beat him because he's my boy and I want to brag or, chirp him a little bit later. So that's kind of like the vibe I have when I go into games. And there's a very interesting clip, and if you guys want to pull it up sometime at your leisure, do it. We were talking about energy and atmosphere. Go through, they do before the game, even before the final starts, they do like introductions and they'll point the camera at each player and they go down the line. Watch that. Look at our team and our expressions and our faces, and then look at the Swedish team and tell me who looks more loose and excited and who looks more like maybe a little nervous or tight. And I think right there, especially after knowing the result, right there is a very telling sign of what teams are coming out to play this game. I remember in particular, I gave myself a little mustache twirl and pointed to the camera with a big old grin. I was excited. I was ready to play in the Olympic final and the biggest Olympic game in 2018. Like that was exciting. And I believe like Christopher Sundgren had a very stone cold space along with the rest of the team, just kind of staring down the sheet, thinking maybe like, let's just get this going. The pageantry is too long. It is a lot. Like you get asked to go to the game and then they have to do this whole, not have to, but it's wonderful, but they do this whole like presentation and lead up to this game. So you're standing around for 10 minutes, 15 minutes waiting to start. So we just kept loose and stayed excited. And I think they may have tightened up or thought about the gravity of the game or something, but it's pretty, you can see the difference in energy. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to win, but there's a difference in our team's vibes right at the beginning.
And going through that game, for me, certainly watching. I remember sitting watching the final, and obviously watching it from a Swedish point of view. You have to excuse me there, Matt, but I was watching it from a Swedish point of view, feeling quite nervous and uptight. It just didn't. It felt like a bit tense. And I think you could see the momentum in that game building and building and building up to that the big five, obviously.
Yeah. So another interesting anecdote about the whole thing is going into that, even like the first end of the game, part of that reason maybe we felt a little more loose is we were the underdogs. We already got silver. We've already exceeded expectations. We're playing with house money. These guys are the favorites. People expect them to win, and that adds some weight. Whether it, that was part of it or not, who's to say? They're the only ones that could say that, but it's definitely not always easier to play as the favorite. When you have a target on your back, it can be daunting. So maybe that played a role as well. But being the underdog and guaranteeing ourselves a silver medal, like before even showing up, like I said, we're playing with house money. There's no losing. It's either we win with the silver or we win with the gold.
So I'm thinking we've got about another few minutes to go before we get onto the question and answer. I've got a couple of more things I want to just talk to you about, Matt. Firstly, the feeling. How was the feeling? Can you describe that?
It's pretty surreal. It's hard to describe. It's the culmination of years and years of practicing and highs and lows coming to a head. And it's very emotional. I am a pretty emotional guy, so that's probably not surprising for you guys, but it's a lot. It's overwhelming for sure.
And just thinking back to when you were a junior, the first time you won the US Junior Nationals, can you compare those feelings?
I mean, they're very similar because that was a time when I was fairly new to curling. The first time we won the US Juniors, I was 4 years into the game, so I was blown away how excited I was. And actually, that was the time that I was like, I won a Junior Worlds in 4 years. Like, why can't I win an Olympics against the same players I'm playing now? Because they're all my age. And that was when I decided, like, I'm going to do part-time school. I'm going to focus on curling. Curling's going to be my priority. And it's worked out very well for me so far.
No doubt. Now, two more questions. What was the coolest experience you've had since winning the gold? Because obviously have you got the gold with you, by the way? I haven't even asked you about that, for goodness sake. You got to get up, man. Hey, it's never that far away, right?
No.
Yeah, look at that bad boy.
The ribbon's seen better days, and then here's the back.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. So what is that? Tell me your best experiences winning the gold.
Honestly, there was just a whirlwind of media attention and things going on right after. It was really fun to go on to Fallon. I was on to promote the mixed doubles prior. So when I went back onto the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, he goes around, we're all standing in the dressing room, and he goes, John Schuster, nice to meet you. John Landsteiner, nice to meet you. Tyler George, Joe Polo. And like I said, I was there before, and he gets to me, and he goes, Hammy, and he comes in and gives me this huge bear hug, and he won't let me go. He's talking in my ear and hugging to me. It was just like an awesome experience. That was really neat. And there's just so much cool things. Like as an American, we get to go to the White House, and I got to like walk around the first floor in the basement of the White House without any restrictions. So like I have a photo of me and a ski jumper. We picked up these pillows off this couch that's over 100 years old and pretended to have a pillow fight with them for a photo. And then
Can you send me that picture, Matt? Because I'll put it onto the Instagram for the kids.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I'll give you a photo dump of a bunch of cool Olympic photos that I have. I'll just send you a bunch of them.
Please do, and then I'll pop those into Instagram. Now, one last question before we open up to the Q&A for everyone else, because I feel like I'm asking all the questions I want to ask you. So I know there's a lot of questions coming in. Moving forward now, because obviously it's you've changed. This has changed now from being perhaps the underdogs to having the big target on your back now because you're the reigning champs.
A little bit.
Do you notice the difference? Do you feel a difference? How do you deal with it?
That's a great question. So part of me had to think like you've achieved the top, like what everyone was hoping to achieve. Like winning a world championship is another like goal, and it's an incredible honor. I wish to do it one day, but like realistically, the biggest stage is the Olympics. So I felt like satisfied. So like, I guess I don't really feel like I need to prove anything anymore. I still play because I love curling. I'm not necessarily going to necessarily win again. I'd love to win again, but I feel like I'm still playing at the top of my game, and I really enjoy doing it. So that's kind of like my motivation. Whether I have a target on my back or not, that's fine. Come at me. I'm looking for the best curling games in the world now. I've done what I wanted to do. Now I just want to play awesome curling matches. So
that sounds like
it works out for me. Some people might feel the pressure, but I'm a goofball.
And we love that. It feels like you and even Chris Plies before I've almost brought this kind of lifestyle curler rather than, you know what I mean? And that's a really cool thing to have.
Well, again, it's kind of like breaking the mold. I have my own life outside of curling. I like to, I'm a personable guy. I do a lot of things with friends, and I don't want curling to necessarily define me. I want people to think like that's Matt Hamilton. That's that cool dude from Wisconsin who happens to be a curler, a really great one, rather than like the curler. So like it's important to me that my personality shows because that's just who I am. I don't want to change who I am because it doesn't fit the curling mold. And Chris obviously fits that with all of his tattoos. And, he used to be Team Red Bull because he's awesome. It's pretty awesome that we were able to maybe not necessarily fit that curling mold and maybe show the people that aren't necessarily curlers that we're pretty relatable. We're just guys that have a passion for sport and took it to the next level.
Yeah, and I think you guys have done a huge job for curling and actually winning that gold in the way you guys are. That must have been huge for the States as well, I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's been growing. It's been growing exponentially. There's so many clubs opening in the South. Like LA just got their own dedicated curling ice in Southern California, which is awesome. Arizona's got a club. Tyler George is now the club pro at a new curling rink in Austin, Texas. Wow. Like, how cool is that? Like, these southern states that don't even know what snow is, they shut down their cities for 1 inch of snow. They're curling. It's amazing.
Well, and that's all down to you guys. So congratulations for your successes so far, and we wish you all the best even going forward. And it couldn't have been better to have you here as the first person to get the energy going for this camp.
Yeah.
For the first chat with the champs. Now, let's see. Petter, P-Dog, P-Daddy, are you there? He's there. Look, he's ready. We're all got beards. This is great. It's the bearded trio.
I was just looking at your hair, Matt. It's just I can't do it.
You were look at that.
There you go.
Now you're just making me jealous. You were talking about that bald spot earlier.
Yeah. So this is actually, I'm growing it out for, I'm going to donate it, but I'm going to be doing pledges. I'm going to try and hopefully go to the Olympics, bring some attention to it. And I'm going to take pledges for donations, and that'll go to Stash Strong. And then it'll donate it to a children's wigs program for child cancer patients. So that's the reason it's being grown out. Other than the fact it's an awesome head of lettuce, it's going to be donated along.
That's great. And is the donation site already open, Matt?
No, not yet. I was talking with the guy at Stash Strong, and we're waiting for a more Olympic buzz. And obviously, I've got to make the Olympic team first. So that's the primary goal: make the Olympics, and then we'll start talking donations and charity stuff. So
once you get that far, please let me know, and we'll make sure all the guys out here can hopefully make a donation too, because we're doing this camp for free. We're doing it for free, everyone. So get some cash out for Matt Stash Strong.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
If you're gonna pay something, let's make sure it goes to a good cause.
Exactly. Quite right. And I'm jealous as hell about your hair. That really gets me. Right. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's
Schuster
leave
doesn't.
that.
Schuster's not in love with it either.
Right, P-Dog, what's happening? Where are we at? Who's got questions for the main man?
Well, there were slow starters, but we actually have a couple of questions. So what I'll do, I'll say your names, and you'll be able to put your camera and microphone on and ask your question directly to Matt, if that's okay with you, Matt.
Yeah, and I just wanted to throw this out there that I have nothing going on for the next hour or so. So as many questions as you guys got, I'm here for you.
Cool. And if you feel you want to ask a question and don't have time to write them down, just give me tell me in the chat. So first off, Mia, Clara, Val, and Justine from Canada, could you turn your camera and microphone on?
Hi, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to speak with us today. Our question for you is, do you have any advice for dealing with pressure in big game situations?
Excellent question. So everyone deals with pressure differently. Some like it hits you the same physiologically. Like you can get butterflies, your heart rate will rise. Things that I like to do to build pressure or to help alleviate pressure is having especially when I'm shooting, a pre-shot routine. But like I have a plan for every shot, whether I'm sweeping or if I'm throwing. Like if I'm sweeping, I'm either going to the other end and like seeing the rocks and seeing where they're at, so I know where it is. And now I'm more comfortable because I know the situation. And if I'm in the hack, it's like, okay, I'm going to point my toe, drop in the hack, clean my rock off. I like to rub my knee and then grab the rock and go. It's just doing those processes that are comfortable for you should help put you in a better position. Because if you do something you're not comfortable with or used to, that might throw you off and make you feel like a little more anxious about a shot. So I would say stick with your team systems and your routines really well, especially in the pressure games, because that's going to give you familiarity. Hope that works.
Yeah, thanks. That's great.
Awesome.
Perfect. Good start.
Fantastic.
Isla from Edinburgh, could you turn your microphone and camera on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
How long have you been playing curling?
I started in 2004, 2005. My dad got me into it. He showed it to me, and again, I was a teenager, and my dad wasn't cool to me at the time. So he asked me if I liked curling after I watched him play a game, and I said, I don't think so. And then the next year, my buddy asks me if I want to play, and he's my age, and he's one of my good buddies, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. But so basically, at first I didn't want to play because my dad liked it, and then my buddy told me it was cool, so I was like, okay, it must be pretty cool. So I think I started in 2005, and I played with my buddy in a men's league on Thursdays.
Thank you, Isla. That was a good question and good answer.
Yeah.
Question for you: if you ever end up having kids, do you think you'll be in the same position as your father?
Of course. I'm going to be the most embarrassing dad of all time. Like with my energy, once I have it, especially if I have a teenage daughter, she is going to resent me.
That's good. Okay, so Stuart from Switzerland, or I believe maybe a bit of Scotland as well. Could you turn on your camera? Yep.
There we go. Hey, Matt, been really great listening to you today. Thanks so much for taking the time. In your experience, just listening to you talking about your experiences from juniors through, in the transition from playing junior level to the elite level, what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome?
That's an amazing question, because I really enjoyed my junior team. And then the second we got to the point where we were aging out, Anders got picked up by a different men's team. Chris Plies was the alternate on the Olympic team, so he was taken. And our second, Matt Perushek, he's decided he wanted to go to law school, and he was out. So I was back on my own again. And fortunately, there's some players in the Madison area that needed a team or needed a teammate, and I was able to join with them and kind of continue that career. But it's scary, because when you're done with juniors, and it's an awesome move playing with some guys that, you know, have a little more experience in men's and kind of like getting taken under their wing, as opposed to kind of as a junior team going into men's, you're kind of throwing yourself to the wolves. So there's multiple ways to go about it. Like, there's a lot of great junior teams that go right into men's and have a lot of success. And then sometimes teams will break up and kind of like form onto other men's teams to kind of learn the ropes. And that's kind of what I did. And I tried to stay relevant.
Cool. You just see there, Matt, just about, that's my big brother Stuart there. He's in Switzerland. You see there's a lot of coaches even on this as well, which is really cool too. So it's not just the juniors, it's the coaches as well. And also Stuart has the same issue with me about the bald spot, which is frustrating. As genes for you.
You obsess about it and I don't. Yeah. There we go. Thanks, Matt. Good luck for the season.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Perfect. So we have 2 more questions from
Perfect.
a girl in Canada. So Isabella, or Brad, as I called you in the chat, you turn on microphone and the camera. Thank you. Kim, could you turn on your mic as well?
Okay. Have you ever felt like a challenge, like you've been told that you can't curl or something?
Yeah. So I got rejected from the high performance team. We all tried, a lot of teams tried out, and the idea was they were going to take the 10 best men and the 10 best women in the US and build 2 super teams. I must have been ranked 11th because they didn't accept me. And I got an email from our director at the time saying, "Hey, Matt, unfortunately this year you didn't make the team. We look forward to seeing you progress and maybe coming back and making it into the program." And I replied with, "I appreciate the time. Thank you for letting me come to the camp. I look forward to showing you that you made a huge mistake, and we'll see you on the Olympic team or on the high performance team later in the coming years." And oddly enough, I forwarded him that email right after I won the Olympic gold too. So he got it 2 times.
Next question. What are your favorite strategies?
Anything that involves more rocks. I don't mind if I have the hammer, I don't mind playing around the center and letting that team play in a comfortable like steel setting. But we also have a plan to get up a corner and try and generate a little play over to the wings as well. So we really just like rocks in play. I like finesse shots a lot. Like back line to hack is probably my favorite weight to throw. So when you get a lot of fun little chip shots or, you know, a heavy draw where you tap and roll to a freeze is like, that's the most satisfying shot in curling. And you can't do that without rocks in play. Yeah, kids. So I will tell you right now, this was one piece of advice that I got when I was a kid, and it stuck with me. This guy's kind of a U.S. curling legend. His name's Steve Brown. He had a very good career in men's, and he told me that throwing the high, hard ones, peels and stuff, it's a lot of fun, and they look really cool. But the shot that's going to win you a world championship is back line. And that stuck with me for my entire career. So I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you, Isabella. We got one more from Scotland. Victoria, you're on.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi. Was there ever a time where you felt like quitting curling, and if so, how did you overcome that and get your passion back?
I tell you what, when I got that email, it was pretty hard to take. I did not like the idea that I didn't make that team. I was in the final at the U.S. Nationals the year prior, so I really thought I was good enough. I thought I was one of the best in the U.S. I didn't think there was any way I wasn't going to make the top 10. So that, I guess, all sorts of thoughts and emotions were going through my head. But then the thing that I thought personally, and again, this might be the competitive nature in me or the defiance in me, the thought was like, fine, I'll quit, and it's their loss. And then I kind of thought a little bit more, and I'm like, no one's gonna care if I quit. So why would I? What's a better way to show them, to make them know that they made a mistake? Quitting was the easy but not the right way. The right way to do it would be get better, get on the team, win a gold medal, and say, told you so. And that ended up kind of being my motivation. And again, this happened very fast, probably within an hour's time frame of getting that email. I went through this roller coaster of what's next. Do I go to school, start a career, and be a boring desk jockey, or do I want to try and pursue a passion that I know I'm into? And even though there's a setback, how am I going to overcome? And my thought was, show them they're wrong. Again, yeah, that's just because apparently my defiance runs deep.
we all
Perfect.
know.
So that was the last question.
We all love a little bit of defiance.
I mean, as long as it's, mine was very channeled. There's no destruction or anything. It was, I'm going to defy but with my actions and my abilities rather than defy by destruction and, nothing, something that's not constructive.
There was just a little side story there, Matt. There was we were at the European Championship one year, and Ethan Brewster's on, I think, on the chat, and his dad Tom, obviously hugely successful Scottish curler.
Oh yeah.
And now Tom was there with the Scottish team, and we were playing at separate ends. And I remember I was there as coach for the Danes, and I put a slider on the ice. The whole don't put your slider on the ice thing. And the umpire was on me like a hawk. He says, "Get your slider off the ice." I was like, "Oh, sorry." And I said, but look over there, Tom Brewster on the other side. He's got a slider. So the guy runs across to the other side, and he gives Brewster the same thing. And then I did the same thing back. I put my slider back on again just for fun. I mean, it makes no difference. I'm the coach. And Brewster said, look, Driver's got his slider on the ice. So this poor umpire's running backwards and forwards. Just a little bit of defiance, but it was all in good fun. But
that's awesome.
He was taking his umpiring duties very seriously there.
Yeah, and you'll get those umpires from time to time. So, yeah, you just you say nod your head and say yes, sir.
Yes,
or, yes, ma'am.
Of course. Yes. I'll put my hat in my back pocket. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, I'll wear it right here.
Excellent. So
no more questions.
Amazing.
I got tons of stories. No more questions, anybody?
Go on, give us one more story, because we have got a few other things we need to do, and you're more than welcome to stick around and listen. We've got League of Legends with Paya Lindholm, his tips for the juniors coming up, and we've got the prizes for the social media competition that's coming up. But give us a good story then. Give us a good story to finish.
All right. Let's see. Okay. So the night before the final, I told you I met up with Oscar. Before that, we had met up with a lot of people, obviously in the village. We were in this 20-some story building, all of Team USA, but they only had one working elevator at the time. So, and we were on the 19th floor. So as you came down, you'd pick up more and more people every single time. So there's one time where basically the entire US hockey team women's hockey team piles in with us, and we're like this standing in there, and nod and shoulder, hi, how's it going? Like, you gonna win today? Yeah, we're gonna win today. Anyway, I find out one of them they went out after they won the gold medal to the Czech house, which is right across the street from the village, and in the coastal village, which is where we were at. So we were like, oh well, we kind of made friends with them. Let's go say hey and congratulate them. And I remember going out and I saw him, and I walked up to one of the girls. I knew her name's Alex Rigsby. She was the backup goalie, and she played in Madison, where I'm from. So I was like, hey, Alex, great job. I'm so proud of you. And she had her medal. And she's like, yeah, that's great. And I was like, can I see it? And she holds it out, and I kind of like go to grab it. She goes, no, don't touch it. You've got to win one of your own tomorrow. And that was pretty cool. And apparently there's an Olympic superstition where you're not supposed to touch someone else's gold medal when you're still in competition. So it's a fun fact. Yeah. She's teasing you with it. She's like, you can see it. And then when I went to touch it, she was like, you can't touch it though.
So that was it. It was her that did. She made it for you.
She helped us. I might have jinxed us right there without knowing the superstition. And apparently another fun thing, when you're at the Olympics, if you do win a medal, you have to keep it in your socks drawer. And the reason being is no one would ever look for it in your sock drawer. I don't know why. Maybe it prevented from getting stolen, but people it's funny. You'll see people take their gold medals out and they'll take them out of a clean sock. And it's a great little carrying case. And two, it's because people won't think to look in your sock drawer.
Well, I tell you, it's a quick sock story. When I played my second World Juniors, we lost the first game against Switzerland, and I changed my socks. And then we got in a row and had the same pair of socks for the next. We won 10 games in a row, won the final, and those socks were walking at a red deer on their own. So you wouldn't have been thinking about finding any medals in that sock. I'll tell you that much.
No, yeah, no doubt. That sounds gnarly.
Pretty gruesome, actually. Pretty gruesome. P-Dog, I saw there was one more question came in. Should we let in the last question?
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Okay.
At least now you've addressed it. So, Michael from England, please.
Hi, Matt. This is really a coaching question. What is really the best thing that a coach has ever done for you in order to become a better curler?
So we talked about that energy before, right? We said how my role on the team is bring the energy, have some fun because it's infectious. The rest of my team builds off it. So Phil Drobnik, who's now our national coach, maybe you guys know him. He would sit in the stands and he would pound his fist like this because he wanted me to get excited and pound my broom. So if I ever made a shot or had a big sweep, his way of clapping for me was to remind me to get excited and slap my broom and have fun. And I think just his presence and knowing that if I need to break my concentration and look up to the stands, he's going to be there with a thumbs up or a, broom slam or get yourself going. He's there for my reminder to bring that energy and, be that energetic Matt Hamilton that helps the team win. So yeah, just knowing what your team needs. Again, it's all about recognition and being there as a supporting role. You can be the most technical coach in the world, but if someone's struggling out there and you can't help them, then you're kind of useless. So that's my suggestion. Just be there for your team, your guys or girls. Just do everything you can to know what they need and have that in spades.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Michael. Excellent. Now, great, everyone. Great questions today, and great that everyone's taking their time to have a think. And we're setting the tone for the week. Make sure you get your questions all prepped up for the rest of this week coming up. Now, one of the things you guys do in the States are baseball games, and I love it. I think it's called the 7th inning stretch, right?
Yep.
So you're near the end, but you're not quite at the end, and everyone's been sitting down, and and let's face it, no one's at school just now, so everyone's probably knackered, exhausted, listening for such a long period of time. So what I want everyone to do now is to stand up. We'll do a little 7th inning stretch here. Everyone stand up and roll your shoulders. Get some shoulders going there. Get Matt doing it, and we'll get them going forward. And then we'll get the hands and we'll roll the wrists here. We'll roll a bit of this, and then we'll do one of those. Can we all do one of those? Oh, I love a bit of that. And then we'll do one of those. Bit of disco. There we go.
I'm here for all this moves. This is my jam.
I wanted to get Matt to dance disco. That's all I wanted to do today. So cool. Now you've had a little stretch, guys. Now you can sit back down. We've got another 15 minutes to go. I've obviously got the social media stuff to do. But before we get there, Matt, massive thank you for being on today. It's been an amazing start and great talking to you. You've been a huge inspiration, and we love the way you are. So continue being the guy you are.
Thank you very much. And guys, stick around for Pea Lindholm. He was my number one player to watch growing up outside of Canada. Obviously, your Furbies and Martins when I was growing up were the big names, but my favorite curler from outside of the United States was Pea Lindholm. So pay attention. He's a genius.
So just a quick Pea Lindholm story. I had the honor of playing a couple of seasons with him, and Pea's got a habit of scaring people. I don't know if you know this. And he does stupid stuff. Like at the Olympics, he hid in the broom boxes behind the scoreboards. And when the Japanese girls came out to open their box, he was inside and he jumped out and surprised them and scared people. So the first weekend I was playing with him, I got up to go to the toilet, middle of the night stuff. Went up to go to the toilet, came back, and I thought, his pace on his bed looked a bit weird. Just looked weird, huh? So I was being really quiet because I didn't want to disturb the legendary Pea Lindholm. So I crept back into my bed, and I just didn't hear him. I thought there was just something not quite right. He was in the other bed. And the next, I go to sleep and try to be quiet. The next thing I feel is this hand has come up from underneath my bed, and he grabs me. He goes, "Wah!" And he crawls out from under my bed. He starts laughing, and he gets into his bed and falls asleep. And I'm lying there going, "Oh my God, what is he doing?"
That's awesome. That just reaffirms why he was my favorite curler.
Suits you. Excellent, Matt. Well, listen, again, thank you for being here. Please stick around and enjoy the rest of this last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Few bits and bobs to do here. Let's see. I tell you what, from one guy with amazing hair, Matt Hamilton, let's go over to the other guy with amazing hair, Jacob the Hair Hannah, our social media guy.
Well, what an honor. Thank you to be compared to the main that is Matt Hamilton.
Hey, well, you're good. You're getting there. You're getting better.
I'm working on it.
I dig it. I dig the curls, man. Looking good.
Thank you. Likewise. Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, Matt. It's been awesome to listen to. Cool. So
now, just quick question, Jake. Do we want to do this now or do we want to do it at the end? Do we want to save the best for last?
I'm fine with leaving it till the end. Honestly.
Okay, let's leave it to the end. I was just actually checking you were online. That's good. So we're good.
I've been here the whole session. Okay. Bye for now.
I'll tell you what, let's do Pea Lindholm then. After Pea, because Pea is obviously a hero for many people. And we're going to, like yesterday, we'll do the League of Legends. Pea's going to give his tips. He sent me a video, and this is the tips for you guys out there. And then I'll be posting a video of his World Championship semi-final game against Kevin Martin back in 1997 when he won his first Worlds, just so you can see the difference in the style of play in the game. And it was a very exciting finish to that game. So let's go to League of Legends and Pea Lindholm. Let's see if I can find it here. Here we go. And hopefully can you all see my screen now? Jacob, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. That's what Pea looked like underneath my bed before he reached around and grabbed me. Cheeky monkey. Right, here we go.
Hi, this is Pea Lindholm, former professional player, won both the World Juniors and 3-time World Champion. I also used to work as the national coach for Sweden, and now I'm the national coach for China. I would like to give you some advices that helped me in my career, and also as a coach, I think some important advices. First is make sure to set your goals. It's important, I believe, to talk about them with your team, and both short term and long term, and try to have them specific and measure them. They should also be attractive and realistic, and also time set. So take a few moments and think about those words, what it really does mean. I also believe it's very, very important that you respect your teammates. Listen to what they're saying and don't just do your own thing, because then the career will be pretty short in the team. Another important advice is to plan carefully and do things at the right time. For example, in the summer, you can make sure your equipment is ready for the ice season to start. Like you have some sponsors and put the logo on your clothes, etc. So you can put your focus 100% on the ice training and competitions whenever the season starts. And lastly, but the most important, I would say, the drive from yourself is make sure to have fun. Curling is great, and just go out there. Good luck.
So some pretty great tips there from world champion, Olympic, three-time Olympian, a national coach for China now. So yeah, Pia Lindholm is a true legend of our sport. I'll be posting the video on Teams for you later on, and also post the link to the YouTube game, as I said, from the 97 final. All right, so we're through League of Legends for today, Pia Lindholm. Tomorrow, I just want to remind you, I'll be sending out the new link. Tomorrow we've got 2 sessions. First session is at 2 o'clock Stockholm time, and it's the live CrossFit session with Olympic champions Sarah McManus and Sophia Marbergs. You don't need any equipment. You just need some space to work with, and you need to have some clothes that you need to get changed into, because Sarah promised me, I spoke to her just before we came on, and she said, you're gonna get sweaty tomorrow. They're gonna be the sessions are around about a half hour with some explanations. So they said it's gonna be about a 45-minute session total. And then there's going to be some time for question and answer if you want to ask them any questions when they're done their session. But sharp at 3 o'clock will definitely be finished, Stockholm time. So 1 hour session at the maximum. Then you'll have 1 hour to get changed. And then we're on with tomorrow we've got Chat with the Champs. And tomorrow we've got the bronze, the silver and the gold medalists from the mixed doubles in Pyeongchang. This is unique, because it's never happened in a webinar before, where we have all 3 medalists from an Olympic discipline. So it's going to be amazing. So we've got Kristen Skaslien, Magnus Nedergrotten from Norway, Martin Rios from Switzerland, and Caitlin Laws from Canada. So that's a pretty cool session. That's going to see who gets. Maybe it's going to be that everyone's talking and no one's listening. Who knows? Who knows? One last reminder before we go to the social media stuff. Remind you that the Adam Lund NJC Nutrition. I put the first session up yesterday. Have a look at that. There's a new one coming tomorrow. And a little tip as well. You might want to do the overnight oats. If you haven't already done it, do the overnight oats today and use it as your little snack between the CrossFit session and the Chat with the Champs session tomorrow. Because it's only 1 hour. So you have to get changed quickly, have a shower, get some food in you, and then get onto the Chat with the Champs session. Whew. All right. Jake, are you there? Come on, we've got 5 minutes to go. We're keeping time this year. Last year we kept in overtime.
Yes, we are definitely keeping time this year. So let's keep this short and brief. So first of all, I just want to start by saying thank you.
Sorry, carry on.
Sure. I just want to say thank you for sending all of your submissions. It's been really fun to look at, and keep them coming. It's been a joy looking at all of them, and I really appreciate how you're making it your own interpretations and just having fun. So we have 2 winners. The first of which will be, let's start with the glasses. So the first winner who will win the glasses, let me just pull up my motivations.
And it's these glasses here. Cobalt blue, infrared, look at that. Anjan.
Yes, from Spectrum Eyewear up in ORS. So thanks a lot for that. Is a person who has fantastically surgical steady hands, and I was shocked and also very jealous of that, and that is Laura Watts. So congratulations, well done.
Hey, well done, Laura. And to tell you what, just to make sure we don't get anything mixed up, I've put your name on box.
Nice, awesome. And for the broom, yes, nice, looking good there. Well, good on you for showing it off. So For the broom, the winner of the broom is someone who has taken the digital camp quite seriously and has done some digital art for us, which I really appreciated. Also had some fantastic dramatic background music to the drawing. And that is none other than Luke Paris. So congratulations on winning the broom. Well done.
Well done, Lukey boy. And just so we're agreed on this, here we go, Luke. I'll put it on the plastic so we don't get any of them mixed up. Let's see. There we go, Luke Paris.
Awesome. So congratulations then. Well done.
Now, before we move on to tomorrow's competition, and tomorrow we've got these bad boys.
Ooh, cool.
These are my favorites, actually. They suited me. They were really, really, really comfy, these ones. Really
Have you tried all of these?
Of course. It would be ridiculous not to. And we've also got a broom. But before we go on to that for tomorrow, quick reminder about Unicorn Cup, because some people weren't on the session yesterday. So quick reminder about that, Jacob.
Yes, of course. So for this year's Unicorn Cup, we want you guys to pair up with a camper from another country. You can find fellow campers by looking at the follow list on the Instagram account we have created, or the people that are in this meeting, or the team in general. And we want you guys to, to present your partners, and of course, make it as entertaining as possible. And we want you to show us your celly from when you become World Junior Champions. Lastly, you and your partner, we want you guys to make a camp song to the melody of Ice Ice Baby. Please send in your entries to the camp Instagram in one cohesive video. If it's too long, or if you're not able to send it there because there's a minute time limit there, please email it to us and we'll have a look at it. So please submit your entry by the end of Thursday's live session. And yeah, the winner will get to color in the infamous unicorn and get their names engraved on the soon-to-be tankard.
Awesome. And do you want to know who's in the teams before they submit them, or when do we submit these by? When's the last time?
Yes, so please submit your submissions by the Thursday session, by the end of the session on the live session on Thursday. And I would really appreciate if we could be able to keep it to a minute, keep that time frame, because I'm sure that everybody's really eager to jump in and take part, because it's a very good prize in my opinion. I still myself have not gotten my hands on that tankard nor my name on it, so I'd love to partake, but I can't. So yeah, please keep it to a minute if that is possible.
Max 1.5 maybe.
Maybe max 1.5 if I'm gonna.
But don't tell everyone. Don't tell everyone.
Don't push it.
Coolio. All right, so
yes.
Let's see. We've got a new pair of glasses and a new hardline broom for tomorrow.
Yes.
What's the competition for tomorrow, Jake?
Yes, so tomorrow we'll do the balance broom challenge. So what we want you to do is balance a broom on its end with your hand and proceed to sit up and down on the floor as many times as you can in 1 minute. Your bottom has to touch the ground in order for it to count. We have a lot of controversy about this when I was doing this challenge. So if you were to drop your broom throughout that minute, it's not longer valid. So you need to make it cohesive. If you drop your broom, you'll have to reset and start the count over from 0, because yeah, if you've watched the TikToks, we had some very angry Canadians leading up to the camp.
I think maybe it's on Instagram as well, the Nordic Junior Curling Tour Instagram. And maybe we should even post it on the, so everyone gets the idea. We can maybe post that video also on the summer camp Instagram, right?
Yes, I'll repost it on the story so you can take a look at it. And
30 seconds.
Please. 30?
Was it 1 minute or 30 seconds? What did we give?
1 minute.
Wow.
To be nice.
Wow.
To be nice. Because it's really difficult. I struggled a lot. So please send in your submissions to the camp Instagram by DMing us the video, and you have until 12 a.m. Stockholm time tomorrow to do so.
Excellent. Jake, has been a day of hair today with Jake and Matt Hamilton.
It sure has.
It's been a
hair.
I should have had a wig on. I should have had a wig.
Probably should have.
What a minute.
At least a boa or something. You need to step up your game to tomorrow.
Yeah, big day tomorrow. All right, Jake, thanks for today, buddy. Good luck with the social media stuff.
Thank you. I'll try. I'll need it.
Excellent. So just a reminder for tomorrow, 2 o'clock Stockholm time, live session with Sarah and Sophia. And then 4 o'clock with the 3 Olympic medalists all at the one time. Get your questions ready for that. It's going to be a massive session. YouTube, this session will be on live if you want to go and revisit it, or send it to anyone that wasn't on the session today. And yeah, other social media stuff coming up soon. All right, guys, thank you for another wonderful day at Digital Camp. It's been great, and get yourselves into the Unicorn Cup Challenge, and we're good to go. Thank you, everyone. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, we're off. Peace out.